Welcome back to the Football Terrace and another episode of Straight Facts. I'm joined by Big Steve. I was about to say making your debut. It's not your debut on the Terrace, but debut on Straight Facts. Thanks for joining me, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem at all. And loads to delve into today. We're going to be looking at some of the transfers. Caicedo maybe going to Arsenal instead of Chelsea. Arsenal also reportedly honing in on someone called Ibrahima Bamba. Absolutely no idea who that is. I just had Gooners DMing me in the last 20 minutes asking me to talk about it. We're going to look ahead at City versus Arsenal tomorrow. We're going to be getting Steve's take on the title race. I know a lot of Gooners think they're clear of City this year, but what does Big Steve think? We're talking Marcus Rashford as well. He's in top class form since the World Cup, but is he world class? That is a question we're asking you, the viewers, today. Make sure like buttons are smashed. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace and turning the bell notifications on as well. I wanted to start actually with a bit of Man United. Of course, I know you're from the city, so you'd be very familiar with what's going on there. The turnaround so far this season seems to have been pretty good. Like, what do you make of the progression? The last time we spoke was when you and Neeks did the 12th man. You battered us 6-3. What have you made of Man United's progression since that point?
No, I think you've got to give credit to Ten Hag. The previous couple of managers have came in. They've been a bit of a yes man. You know, the signings have been all wrong. It's not really felt right. He seems to have come in, put his stamp on the football club. He seems to not take any messing. He's brought in some signings. He's got rid of Ronaldo. He seems to have galvanised the club a little bit more. I think the fans are on board with what he's trying to do. I think you're not getting that divide anymore. You know, Solskjaer, you had the people that loved Ollie, couldn't see past the legend status. You had the people that were real saying he's not good enough for the club. Ragnick was a stopgap. Don't really know what happened there. But listen, when you look out there at the managers available at the time, Ten Hag was probably the best option around for any club. And they got him. And you know what? I'm a City fan, but I like him. I like him because he's doing his own thing. He's come into that club and it's a massive, massive club, massive institution. And he had some job on his hands. The first one was, I know it didn't go down well with the Reds, but the first one was to get rid of Ronaldo. He clearly wasn't feeling it. Got rid of him. He's brought his own men in. And as you're saying, you mentioned Rashford before. Looks like he's got a new lease of life under him. So for me, they've improved a hell of a lot. I wouldn't say he's done miracles. What I would say is that Man United team on paper is a world-class side. Varane, you know, all the players they've got now, Casemiro and that. But he's finally getting them playing like a team, and they finally look like a Manchester United team, funny as that sounds.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I think there's a lot of decent players there, and he's got Varane into a system with Lisandro looking like the Varane that we saw at Real Madrid and for France, because that first season at United, he just looked washed. I think Luke Shaw's having a really good season, even at centre-back. He's cleared out some of the dead wood and some of the players that we had problems with. I think Maguire is a big issue. You must have seen Troy Deeney's video a couple of days ago talking about Maguire's agent always on the blower. And those things are problems you just don't need at your football club. Nothing like that ever comes out from City because it's a tightly run ship, as United was under Fergie. I think that the signings have been great. You mentioned Casemiro coming in. For us, we just haven't had. I've been jealous of City for a decade, looking at your midfield, and kind of since we lost Carrick and since we lost Paul Scholes, we just haven't had the right balance. We've bought some good midfielders, but never managed to get that holding midfield player to bring it all together. We've tried about 6 different seasons of unlocking Pogba, and it never really worked, for love nor money. But it's nice to see that progression because I think this Manchester derby, of course, it was great that we won, but there's always more on it when City fans are watching and they know United are getting back to being a decent team again, because even if we beat you under Ollie, it was still seen as, yeah, but look where you are in the league and you're not a threat to us, you're nowhere near us. And we're not near City yet. You are still a considerably better team than Manchester United. But I feel like we've made some ground up this year. And I just hope with new owners coming in that we're able to, have no debt, be run properly, spend our money more wisely. Because we've spent money. We spent the same as you in the last decade, but investing it wisely in the right project. Because I think competitive Manchester teams, Arsenal coming back to the fray, which we'll get into later, it just makes the league more exciting. I think it makes that rivalry. We got it for a little bit, didn't we? Come the back end of Fergie's career, where City and United were going at it. Those derbies were great. And when I lived in Manchester, it was before you guys got investment, and it kind of roles got reversed for nearly a decade there, where footballing wise, United were the smaller team. So yeah, I'm really happy to see it turn around. And one of the players he scored 10 in 10. I think he's got 12 goal contributions since the World Cup. I still miffed that he only got 5 minutes against France under Southgate, but Marcus Rashford's in scintillating form. He, in my opinion, on form is the best winger in the world right now. Where do you rate Rashford? I'm as unbiased as possible, being a City fan. How do you rate Rashford generally? And do you think this form can be maintained by him?
I think we always knew he was a good player. But I think you'll agree, over the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's flattered to deceive. We've seen little glimpses of it here and there, but he's not been consistent. Whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's just him aging a little bit, I don't know. But the form he's in right now, you can't argue with it. He looks a hell of a different player for me. He looks a lot confident. He's shooting from outside the box, left foot, right foot. He's running with the ball. I remember him coming on in the derby, I think it was last season, and he was a waste of time. He was strolling around. He didn't really want to know. He just looked lost. And I thought that was the end of Marcus Rashford at Man United. I thought, it is what it is. But I just think a lot of the United players lost the mojo. What was going on at the club? We know it was a shit show there. So Ten Hag's come in, probably brought a bit of direction. He's probably knuckling down. He's had a good World Cup. And like you say, the figures don't lie. The goals don't lie. The stats don't lie. Marcus Rashford is doing what Marcus Rashford should be doing. You know what I mean? He's not inventing the wheel, reinventing the wheel. He's doing what he should be doing. He burst on the scene as a young kid. He was tipped to be one of the best in the world. It didn't quite happen. And then now at the minute, Man United fans love him again. He seems to have fell back in love with football again. So for me, yeah, fair play to him. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I think that, I'm very careful when I tweet things. I tweeted last night that I think he's the best winger in the world right now. And when I write right now, that means on form. That doesn't mean best in the world ever. And I do think that. And I agree. I think this is the level that I expected him to get to.
No, I was just going to say, the best winger in the world, that's down to... People are going to tell you Saka's having a great season. He is. You know what I mean? Riyad Mahrez, he's going under the radar. He's having a great season. Rashford, yeah, he's doing well. Like you say, he's doing all right. But he's got to keep it up. It's all right if he has a great season this season, and then next season he tails off again, it's the same old Rashford story, isn't it? So he needs to be consistent. He needs to turn up week in, week out for Man United and deliver.
Well, I agree with that. So for me, for him to be seen as the best in the world, top 2, top 3, I don't think he has to keep scoring at this rate, because to score 10 in 10, that means no one. But listen, Messi and Ronaldo did it for a period. I don't expect goals every single game, but it's the level of performances, it's the impact that he's having on games, and the quality of some of the goals as well. I think, though, what's not helped players like Rashford has been the inconsistencies at Manchester United. I truly believe if you took Mo Salah of the last 5 years and KDB of the last 5 years and put them in with the tail end of Jose and Ollie's reign, they would have still been good players, but I don't think they would have delivered as they have done at Liverpool and City, respectively. And that's because I'm not, we know how important Pep and we know how important Klopp have been to creating a framework and a base and a system that allows players to thrive. And I think United have struggled with that because we just haven't had the quality in coaching and management as we do now. And it isn't a shock that a highly tipped and highly regarded manager comes in and suddenly there's improvements. And of course, long term, we need the club to back things. But Rashford, for me, I think he's at a world-class level right now, and I believe he'll stay at this level. He won't keep scoring like this, but I'm quite confident now that we're not going to suddenly see a big tail off, him go sort of 4, 5, 6 months with barely scoring goals, lackluster performances. And I think we'll see more of what we did, where he had a poor game against Palace, but against Arsenal, he bounces back and scores one of the goals of the season. And I want to see more of that. But it's no coincidence to me that Rashford's improving at the very same time that United are getting better as well. Because as we all know, like, the team players thrive in good teams. It's as simple as that. Joshua here actually says 1 month since the World Cup, Rashford equals world class. Come on. I think again,
Yeah, I can't say he's world class. I can't. He's not world class for me. He's not. He's having a good season. You know, he's a good player. I'll give him his flowers for that. But he's not world class for me. I don't think Real Madrid are banging on the door for him. I don't think Barcelona want him. I don't think any world class team's going to come knocking for him. I just think he's he's got to do it more consistent. You know, can't just have a one season and then you're always world class. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know, give it a couple of seasons. If he's performing at this level, hitting these same numbers, then I'll have that conversation. But at the minute, for me, yeah, Marcus Rashford's a great player. He always has been a good player. He's finally delivering what he should be delivering.
No, I understand. I think that it's everyone's going to have a different view on what constitutes world class. It's a lot of Arsenal fans in the chat saying that Saka is younger and he's performing better. And listen, Saka's fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and he's a player that I've rated since he's come through. The outputs are now there. Mahrez, as you mentioned, and Mahrez is an interesting one because the wingers at City were getting a lot of stick for a number of weeks, not really been in form. And again, I feel like maybe just before, but definitely since the World Cup, Mahrez has come back alive and he's been sensational in a lot of the games where you've won, where you picked up points, put yourself through to the next round of the FA Cup, etc. He's been influential in all of that. He really has been, and that's what Rashford's got to aspire to do. Is what Mahrez has been for the past 5, 6, 7 years, where he's just pretty much been at that level, week in, week out, year in, year out, since Leicester, essentially. Which is how many years ago is that now? 8 years? About 7, 8 years. It's definitely moving, but yeah, definitely at that level. This says that Saka ain't scoring 10 in a row, though. Yeah, but I don't think it's not just the scoring of 10 games in a row that makes you world class, because very few players have actually scored 10 games on the bounce. They actually break it down. Very few players.
Look how many goals Haaland scored, yeah? But it doesn't mean anything if we don't win the league or win any trophies. You know what I mean? Saka can score 6 or 7 goals and win the Prem. So, it's all these individual 10 in a row goals and all this stuff. Haaland's broke the records early doors, but it is what it is. I don't focus on them myself. I just think, if you're doing it week in, week out for your club in the Premier League, best league in the world, you deserve respect. So at the minute, Rashford, the form he's in, he's got my respect.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that winning trophies is important, because that's one thing I keep saying to United fans. So Rashford's already got 3, but we need to add trophies to this. And it's doing my nutting with this Harry Kane chat at the minute, because all I keep hearing from pundits, all I keep hearing from journalists is Harry Kane's the only player in history that doesn't need to win trophies to be. He can be a goddamn Spurs legend all you want, but they're talking about him being a footballing great, a footballing legend, and I'm sitting there thinking, why are Spurs the only club that are not only allergic to winning trophies, but suddenly their players don't need trophies to be considered greats? It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. It really is. I find it weird. It's not even a dig. It's just like every other top player's got them. Why don't Kane need them as well? Do you know what I mean? I keep hearing Spurs fans tell me he's clear of Aguero, clear of Rooney, and I just think these players did it in both Rooney and Aguero are prime examples. Back end of the season, last 10 games, 12 games of seasons, they were scoring goals in title-winning seasons, in high-pressure games. We don't know if Harry Kane's capable of doing that, because he's never been in that situation.
You should listen. I said it on the Big Six show. Harry Kane will be doing sportsmen's dinners in London in about 30 years, talking about the time he should have signed for Manchester City and Daniel Levy ruined his career. That's my opinion, and that's what I think. Harry Kane's a fantastic player, but look at Alan Shearer. Shearer, I reckon, he says he doesn't, but I reckon he regrets that Man United move. You know what I mean? Think of the trophy cabinet Shearer would have had. Shearer was outstanding, fantastic player, but you can still be an outstanding and fantastic player and make bad decisions. And I think Harry Kane, his time at Tottenham, for me, is over. He needs to leave at the end of this season if he's got any last dance somewhere to put a few trophies in the cabinet. He needs to go.
Listen, I completely agree. And it's not even about digging at Tottenham. It's just I have high standards for what constitutes a legend, and winning trophies is a massive part of it. Abdul here says it's shameless to claim that Rashford has 3 trophies for a fan base and a club that claims to be the biggest. Only the Premier League and Champions League matter, and he has none. I mean, to say that that Rashford shouldn't include any of his winning medals that he's won is crazy, because he's won an FA Cup, League Cup, and Europa League, and you don't scoff at that. But equally, what I would say, Abdul, is we're talking about a different situation. For Rashford to become a Man United legend, it's impossible without winning league titles or a Champions League, because all of our legends have them. So you can't. I don't care if Rashford overtakes Wayne Rooney's goal scoring record. I won't see him as a legend until he adds those Prems and Champions League. So it isn't shameless to claim that he's got 3 trophies, because he does have 3 trophies. He has 3 winners' medals. That's a fact. But Man United's threshold for becoming a legend is clearly higher than Tottenham's. And, and I mean, no disrespect to the late great Sir Jimmy Greaves. It's just a fact, Abdul. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Well done, Terry, for having Big Steve on the program. Fair guy. Some mid analysis and banter as well. I don't mean some mid. Mid means bad, doesn't it?
Don't know.
I don't know. I think again, I'm not as young as some of the people that are watching here. But but there we go. Viewers, make sure like buttons are being smashed and you're subscribing to the Terrace. I want to ask you about Chelsea. I'd love to get your opinion on this. They're linked with moves for Onana and Enzo Fernandez and others. They've signed nearly £200 million worth of players, including Mudryk. What do you make of their strategy? What do you make of what Chelsea are doing?
To be honest, I don't really know. They look, obviously, what happened to him with the Abramovich thing came out of the blue. Couldn't have been easy, being forced to sell and having that upheaval. We get that. But Todd's come in, and he's a bit like, I don't know, he's a bit like he's playing Championship Manager or FIFA career mode. He seems to be grabbing players from all over the place, putting them on 8-year contracts, things like that. And I know the long contract is to get around the FFP, with spreading the money out over years and that. I get that. But Graham Potter's come in there, and I'm being honest, looking at Potter, I went to Stamford Bridge the other week, and then I went to the home game. Looking at Potter, they're not his players. Graham Potter's never been in the market looking at Mudryk and players like that. He never has. He was at Brighton. But I just feel a bit sorry for him. I mean, you look at Arteta, we're going to move on to Arteta and the blueprint. You employ not a rookie manager, it's the wrong word, but if you employ an inexperienced manager or a lesser manager to manage a bigger team, one thing they need is time. I was outside Stamford Bridge. The Chelsea fans wanted him gone. They wanted Potter gone. They don't know who they're buying. They're collecting players left, right and centre. It's mad at the minute there. I mean, it's turmoil. I don't know. I wouldn't like to comment on it. I mean, Chelsea's a great club. Not so long ago, they beat us in the Champions League, met a lot of Chelsea fans. I have a love-hate relationship with Chelsea fans. I nicknamed them the Gremlins. I said 1 minute when everything's going well, they're like Gizmo and they sit in a little box and you want to stroke them. And then the next minute when it's not going well, they're swinging off the lampshades like gremlins and kicking off. So Chelsea's just at the minute is a bit in a bit of turmoil. And I just think Graham Potter's not going to last the test of time there. And I think Todd's just having a mad one at the minute.
Yeah, listen, I kind of look at it this way. I mean, I said it on the Terrace a lot. I just feel they're buying a lot of players up front. They're exploiting the amortization, paying off in installments, and they've done it so much. They've kind of, you remember when you're at school, and you might be at school, you might be at work, and there's a way of kind of conning an extra bit of break time, or conning something that isn't like hot bad, but then like someone talks about it in front of a teacher, or the boss gets wind of it and they shut it down, and some loudmouth twonk has kind of ruined it for everybody else. I feel like Chelsea have sort of ruined this like amortization thing now by like making UEFA shorten the contract. Like they kept it a little bit quieter, maybe, instead of, that's the problem with Todd Bowley. He tells everybody what he's doing. So like it's got out. UEFA are like, right. UEFA have been trying to stop the Premier League from spending for a long time. We know that the big clubs in Europe hate the fact that our clubs have more money. Forget money that you've got and Newcastle have got, just money from our television rights they hate. But like, yeah. I still feel like there's a strategy in there that's going to yield some good results once they clear out the players that don't want to be there, and once they give Graham Potter time to really get his feet under the table. The performance in the first half against you in the league game, I sort of saw the way they were moving the ball and thought, there's some play here. They didn't have the quality of players in there, but I thought, there's a little, I can see something here. So I'm really intrigued to see how they kind of push forward.
It needs time, man. If they give Potter time, they write this season off, give Potter time, let him have a full pre-season with them players, get rid of the ones that don't want to be there. You're going to get players that want to believe in what Potter's saying. You know, they've got to trust him. You know, you can see it when Arteta sort of went to Arsenal, there was a few people looking at him in the dressing room as if to think, you know, if Pep Guardiola walks in that dressing room, everyone's respecting him. Mourinho, any of the big names, Conte, you respect him. When you get these managers that aren't like highly thought of, you know, it's hard to turn it around. And I reckon there's some of them Chelsea boys in there that think Graham Potter, whatever. Once he gets rid of them guys, starts working with the new players, starts getting a system, and Chelsea get an identity back, Chelsea be dangerous because the players they've got on paper is some team.
Mate, what you just said there is exactly the same thought as me, in the sense of there's people in this team, and Jorginho is a great example. He's signed to play for Sarri. He's now 3 or 4 managers later, new ownership. There's just an element of I want to leave, I want to go somewhere else and chance my arm. And I think they'll come good again. And when you look at like Enzo Fernandez, they're looking at as an example, and Caicedo, they add that to their midfield. I mean, they're buying quality players, and some of them are really young. I mean, this Mudryk, I mean, we only got to see sort of 20, 30 minutes of him the other day. You can see there's a player in there. There's a serious player in there.
He looked good.
He definitely did. And
I tell you who looked good. You know, Zakaria they bought from Juventus, or is he on loan? He played against City, and I thought he was great. And then another name, like Chuka Wemby or whatever, the guy they signed from Villa, he come in, he looked lively. So I'm looking at, if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm not panicking. I know Chelsea are used to a certain level, and at the minute it's not that level, so I get it. They don't want to be getting levered off City every week and going week in, week out, getting beat. I get that. But sometimes when you're on a journey, you gotta stay in a shitty hotel every now and then, until you get to the main journey. And I think Chelsea at the minute are staying in that shitty hotel, and I think eventually they'll get to the 5-star hotel.
Mate, I hear you. It's the journey. You ever seen that film, The Pursuit of Happiness? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with Will Smith, that's exactly what it is. And at the moment, they're struggling to eat hamburgers, and they're kind of sleeping in rough motels. But I do think there's a method to this madness. And I look at this deal, and there's just talk of City going in late doors for Enzo Fernandez, sort of around £100 million to really tempt things out. And already, I think Benfica have got to pay the player £2 to £3 million for turning down the initial bid. If they bid again higher, they're going to have to pay the player another £2 or £3 million. And then you suddenly start to look at it and think, well, you're paying the player £5 million, they might bid 100. The buyout clause is only sort of 10, 12 million more. You then get into that realm of, well, with what we're losing, we might as well just accept that money because we're almost out of pocket anyway. So they might end up with him, and you just suddenly start going through that list of players, and you think, yeah. And you are right, Zakaria has been looking great. I was surprised he didn't get game time sooner, looking as good as he has. And I also thought João Felix, when he started the game against Fulham, looked dangerous. He looked at it. You compare the level of him
tackling.
Yeah, I mean, his tackling was mad. It was crazy. Like it reminded me of, again, you're about as old as me, so you remember. It reminded me of Joe Cole's debut for Liverpool, where he just tried too hard in the end and got himself sent off. And
I was away on holiday, and my phone had notifications on. I was with the kids and that, so you're trying to be the family man. And then it popped up, Felix, red card. I was like, what? I was like, no way has he been sent off. And I nipped outside, had a look at the tackle, and I was like, well,
yeah,
you know,
me and the missus are watching it in here, and obviously she's a gooner, so she's sort of like wants Chelsea to lose as much as possible. But we're both kind of sitting there. They're 1-0 down again. They're playing. You can just tell when a goal's coming. It was building up. The pressure was building. And the tackle came in. I was out of the room, and she sort of screamed. I thought, what's happened? There's been a goal. She went, nah, Felix, you're going to get sent off. Look at this tackle. I've never seen her smile so much. Well, not since not until they beat us at the weekend. Then she smiled a lot, to be fair. But that was a horrible car journey home, I can tell you. It was from the studio. It wasn't very nice at all. But yeah, no, Chelsea will be all right. And I think they need to add this midfielder, though. I think the one thing they need to add is a bit more in midfield. Their midfield's a little bit weak. What's his name? Kovacic seems to always have injuries or not be able to play 90 minutes. No idea when Kante's coming back. And
without he's training. I seen it today that he's training. So, yeah, he's training back. So, I mean, Kante, I sort of forgot what Kante is like, you know, because he seems to always be injured. But like you said, there's a few players there in the midfield where they might be legends at Chelsea and the fans love them and that, but if they're not fit and they're not on board, they're not worth it. Get rid, freshen it up, get the new blood in, and yeah, I think Chelsea will be all right, mate.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely come good, no doubt about it whatsoever. Viewers, what do you think? What do you feel? Give us your comments below. Make sure you're smashing like buttons as always. Big game tomorrow, I think. I mean, I'm a big FA Cup fan myself. I'm someone that takes it very seriously. You're hosting the best team in the league at the moment in Arsenal, and we'll get onto the title race a bit later. But how are you feeling about the match? Are you feeling confident? You nervous going up against this Arsenal team for the first time this year?
Do you know what? I'm a little bit relaxed because it's the cup. The league game coming up next month's going to be a bit tasty, I think, because City's got to turn up. You know what I mean? We've not been playing the best at the minute. We know we've got problems in our camp. There's certain players making noises about wanting to leave. Pep's mentioning mentality. So we know we're not at the races. I've been every game this season. I've seen it myself. Some games we look unbelievable, and then some games we look disjointed and we're lacking something. I'm not sure what it is. That's down to Pep, best manager in the world, to find it. But tomorrow, I think we're in a good position because we're on the back of a couple of wins, but the last couple of games, he's dropped a lot of the big players. Whether that's mentality, whether it's injuries, I don't know. But Kyle Walker, Cancelo, Ruben Diaz, Bernardo Silva, Alvarez, Foden, they haven't played. So I think we're in a position where they've had a week's training. They've obviously had a few words behind closed doors. I'm expecting them to come in the side against Arsenal and fight for the place. And to be honest, that's more or less our first team. But at the minute, it's not because we haven't been playing them. So I'm expecting City to go strong. There's a week's rest till the next game. But Arsenal, they've got the tails up. They're playing great football. The fans are all behind them. The players are behind them. They're coming to the Etihad 100% confident, thinking we can take anyone. And rightly so. That's the mentality of champions. If you come to the Etihad and start throwing the towel in, saying, oh, it's the Etihad and we never win there, and shit yourself, you'll get beat. You've got to come there with your chest out and go, we're a different breed now, different team, got us playing, let's go. And whether Mikel wants to show his hand for the league game and go full strength, I doubt it. But there's one or two Arsenal players, Lakonga, El Neni, people like that probably need game time, because this run's going to come to a tough period with cup games, Europa League. These players need to be ticking over. So I just don't know what teams are both going to play. So it's pretty hard to weigh it up.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I think it's such a nice prelude to the league games coming up. The fact that we've kind of got to pretty much February and you haven't played each other yet, with the way the season has gone, is quite fun, because then you're going to play each other twice in the second half of the season. It's almost like what to prioritize for Arsenal. So you've got this situation where they're top of the league by 5 points with the game in hand. They could theoretically go, they win that, and I think their game in hand's coming up pretty soon. I think it's against you, the actual game they'll play to go level on games. They win that, and suddenly they're 8 points clear, level. So do they rest a few players tomorrow, and make sure that they keep the parties and whoever else may be fit for the Premier League? At the same time, it's going to be at least 7, 8, 9 days until they play again. So there's almost that kind of adage to say, well, let's just go for it. Let's try and beat City. For you, there's obviously not a massive amount of pressure, but you're out the Carabao Cup. You may still think your favourites in the league, but City have set a standard of winning trophies is key. So you can't rest too many players at home, especially with how, as you say, with how disjointed you've been in games. There's almost this element of, do we have to go strong? So I'm really excited about it. It's a bit of a shame it's the Friday night game. For me, I kind of feel like you leave the bigger one for, late on a Saturday, late on a Sunday over the FA Cup weekend. But I don't think there's any other exciting games to look forward to after this. The rest of them all seem pretty, pretty simplistic, really. Like, Spurs are playing Preston, United have got Reading. Like, these should be easy games, in my opinion, that they should be able to walk through and have no problems with. But Yeah, I'm intrigued about tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a good game. And I mean, Arsenal, they keep. What do you make of the kind of barriers that people keep putting in Arsenal's way? So there's always, every week, there's like, well, if they pass this test, I might start to believe in them. A lot of the media talk about that. Do you think this is another test, or do you think they've proven themselves to be worthy title contenders and one of the best teams around at the moment?
I think coming to Etihad's a test for anyone. But we're not the same side as we was last season. So, it is what it is. It depends how Pep's going to set up. I mean, because Arsenal are top of the league and 5 points clear, you're always going to get people that are going to start putting these barriers. Oh, wait till they drop off. Wait till they get injuries. Wait till this. But if you look back at the Leicester season, they did exactly the same. They kept saying, Leicester's going to drop off. Don't worry about it. They're going to have a fade. They're going to get injuries. And before we knew it, Riyad Mahrez is doing fucking step overs and pinging it in the top corner at the Etihad. And I'm thinking, shit, Leicester's going to win the league. I'm thinking it came that fast from out of nowhere. And Arsenal's got the same mentality as Leicester. The whole club's bouncing from top to bottom. It's a massive turnaround from what they're used to. They've just got to keep marching. Just got to keep marching.
Yeah, they do. It's the turnaround is crazy, and they could be adding to it as well. I mean, they just brought Trossard in, who's I think Trossard's a baller. We've seen what he's done to some of the big teams.
Great player.
He is, and I think you put quality players around him as you've got at Arsenal, and a bit more space, a bit more time. You're going to see him come alive. Better balls being played into him. The amount of chances he creates, but he's been, over the years, he's been creating chances for Neil Maupay and Danny Welbeck, respectively. That's very different from putting opportunities into Nketiah, Saka, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus when he arrives. In terms of giving them your players, though, and I wanted to ask you about this because I made a claim the other day. I feel like City kind of disrespected Arsenal a little bit, and I don't mean it rudely. I just mean almost, we don't see you as a threat, so you can have Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. Do you feel like there was a bit of an underestimation almost? Because I can't imagine if Arsenal were title contenders last year and finished 2 points behind you, I can't imagine you would have allowed them to have Zinchenko and Jesus in the summer. Do you feel there was an element of underestimating the progression and letting them have two of your top players? Do you kind of wish they hadn't done that?
No, I don't think it is that. I mean, you've got to realise that these two players are top quality players. They're not like the fringe players, and Man City can dictate where they want to go. Manchester City as a club has always said that if any player wants to leave, they can leave. Zinchenko and Jesus went to Arsenal, who were arguably a top 4 team at the time, challenging for it, with a coach that they both know. So it's not like we sold them to Liverpool or anyone. I don't think anyone expected Arsenal to go for the title, but they expected them to be in the top 4. But I think Pep's touched on it today in his press conference. He was like, no, he said Zinchenko could have left many times. We accepted a bid for 8 million from Wolves and a couple of seasons before. And Zinchenko went to Pep and said, he mentioned it today and said he wanted to stay. So he stayed. So I don't think it's disrespectful. I just think it's two quality players. Instead of being fringe players at Manchester City and getting bit part roles, they deserve to be regular starters. And Jesus deserves to be a number 9 somewhere and play week in, week out. So I understand the frustration of the players, but it was time to move on. And it could have gone the other way. It could have gone to Arsenal. Arsenal could be 5th or 6th now. Nobody blinks an eyelid. Nobody says anything about it. But it's the fact that Arsenal are doing well. And have them two helped? 100%. Have they brought a mentality to Arsenal that was different? 100%. So I don't think City disrespected anyone. I think we haven't got a crystal ball. I think two of our great long-serving players decided to go. They went to Arsenal. Sterling, one of our greatest players, went to Chelsea. Now, you'd have said at the time, Chelsea was a bigger rival to Man City than Arsenal. But that didn't work out, so nobody's saying anything about it. So, listen, it is what it is. Nobody wishes on Alexander Zinchenko more than me. The kid came from the Ukraine. £1 million. He didn't have a club because Shakhtar couldn't play. He came to Man City. We loaned him to PSV Eindhoven. He wasn't good enough. They sent him back. Pep turned him into a left back. First few games, he was horrendous. Didn't know what he was doing. Teams were targeting him. Could have gone to Wolves. Decided to stay. winning mentality. I'm good enough to play for Manchester City. A lot of City fans at the time thought, this kid's mad. He's never getting in our first team. Flipped it on its head, became an important part of Man City, became the captain of Ukraine, now moved to Arsenal, and he's leading them to a title charge. The kid's got that mentality, and you've got to respect it.
Listen, the progression of the guy, and it's funny you said about playing at left back, because I always remember in his early days, if he was at left back, I used to watch him, be like, right, they could target that, and it'll be a weakness, and he just got better and better and better, which shows again the old adage of, you know, hard work beats talent every day of the week, and it does. And he's obviously talented and got technical ability, but if he hadn't have put those hard hours in and worked hard, he wouldn't be the player he is now. And the way he performed against us at the weekend, I kind of watched the game back. I want to say it was yesterday. It may have been the day before. He was ridiculously good in that kind of inverted fullback role.
But Pep created that role for him.
Yeah.
Pep created that role for him. Pep taught him that role, and he learned that role at Man City. The passion you see from Zinchenko, it's nothing new. People say, look at the passion of Zinchenko. He never had this at Man City. He did. I was there every game. He's the first one at the away end. He's fist pumping. He's challenging. He gives 100%. If you lose, he's over. You can see it in the kid's face. He's disappointed. He's a winner. And when you get winning mentality players and put them in teams, it breeds that mentality. It only came out the other day that he was said in his first training session that the players need to step it up. We should be going for the title. He said some laughed at him. But that's the difference in winners and losers, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. And I think that, that's the thing. Pep Guardiola is that good. And I think football is kind of, I don't know if you feel like this, but football has evolved in terms of systems seem to be so much more important now than before. And if you've got a player he's good at doing, it's one of the reasons why this year it's really weird what they've done with Mo Salah at Liverpool when they've tried to make him more creative when he's a deadly goal scorer. It just seems weird to kind of take someone out of a role they're brilliant at, you know. And if Pep said, no, I want you to be a marauding, attacking fullback like Andy Robertson at Liverpool, Zinchenko wouldn't be the player that he is now. And I think that knowing what someone's skills are, how do I adapt my system to give that person a role where their talents flourish is massively important. And I think what makes Pep so good. Every now and then he has a kind of galaxy brain moment where he kind of goes a bit too far with it. I mean, he did against Chelsea recently, and then made the changes to the second half. And in the second half, you absolutely smashed them to bits, which we all kind of expected. There is talk today that Arsenal are going to try and advance a move for Caicedo. How good a player do you think he could be for a top club like Arsenal?
I think Arsenal's got to be very, very careful in this month because, yes, they need recruits and they need backup, but you're going for a title. So it's not like you're mid-table and you need bodies just to get you through the season and give you... You're going for a title. So they've got to be the right players. B, they've got to be value for money because you can't go throwing the money at it because, you know, Caicedo, the numbers are quoting today, 100 million. It's not going to happen. But look at the deal for Trossard. Chelsea pay 100 million, 89 whatever million for him, for Mudryk. But Arsenal's got Trossard for 27. So that probably leaves a nice 60 million floating about there, what they were going to spend to bring it to go somewhere else. So they're already boxing a little bit clever. And but the numbers Brighton are talking about for Caicedo, that's not going to happen. Arsenal ain't paying 100 million for him. No way. But I don't think that deal happens. I think there's better options on the table. Tielemans, with 1 year left on his contract, I think, at Leicester, could be one viable. I think they could get him from around 30, 35 maybe. I think he's prem-proven, slots right in that team, can add something to him straight away. So I like Caicedo. I think he's going to get his big move, but I just don't see it going to Arsenal.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I spoke to a journalist today who off record, who said that he's spoken to Caicedo's agent, and the agent and the player are shocked that 75 million is being discussed because they're sort of like, we don't think we're worth that much, which tells you straight away that these prices are being pushed up. There is a thought that Arsenal may go for him, but Arsenal are trying to push the price up to a point to try and make Chelsea walk away because Chelsea are getting to a point where they can't spend anymore. Even though they've got a lot of money, they're getting that point. And it does sound like there's some reports saying they might walk away. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal were to get him, if it was for a little bit less, like you've said, that 60, 65 million pound area, I think 55 million's already been turned down by Brighton. But Brighton are definitely thinking about him leaving, though, because they've been talking to Haidara, I think is the player who they're sort of looking at and making strides into as well. But equally, Arsenal are looking at Declan Rice in the summer. And for me, I think Caicedo is great. But Declan Rice, I personally just think is levels. I just think he's sensational. When he gets a lot of stick, Declan Rice. There's a lot of people that think, overhyped and typical English play. There was a comment earlier on in the comment section here saying, Terry, I like all your work, what you do, but when it comes to English players, you rate them too highly. That's not necessarily true. A lot of I actually go through my sort of top 10 players in Premier League history. You've got Henry in there, and you've got Zola in there, and you've got Yaya Touré's in there, and others like that. There's a lot of non-English players in my top 10, top 20, as it may be. But I think, I don't know with Arsenal. I get why they want to bolster that midfield for this title race, because it's going to be a slog against Arsenal, against City in this title race. But I do also get this feeling that I think they would get a better player if they waited to the summer and landed Declan Rice.
I think they're just worried about, if you look at the Arsenal first team, it's a great team, fantastic machine, it's working well. One or two of them get injured, and you look at the underbelly of the team, the players that have got to come in, Lokonga, El Neni, and that. I think that's when people are worrying. Manchester City nearly got caught last season with this same thing. I know people say Manchester City's got a great squad, but last season we were limping over the line. We had Fernandinho at centre-back, Zach Steffen in net in the cup cost us. We had John Stones playing at right-back, John Stones playing in midfield. We went to Atletico Madrid, and we were patched up there, and we had a fight on our hands, and we were limping, but we got over the line. And it's quick. It can happen quick in a title running. Them games come thick and fast. Last 10 games is where the title's won and lost for me. And if you're not prepared and you've not got the backup to step in, Nathan Ake last year stepped in, took us to the title, for my opinion. Stepped in, left back, centre back, wherever he needed to play. They're the players that get you over the line when the shit hits the fan. And I think Arsenal need a few of them proven players like Trossard to get them over the line if the shit hits the fan.
I hear you on that. I mean, do you feel like I'm not too sure what happened there, people. Can you all hear us? Are we back? I don't know what happened, but I'm here. Let me know if you can hear me. It looks like StreamYard kicked both of us out. I don't know what happened there. We both got kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did say both of us went, but we're back. Do you feel like City need anybody else? Do you feel like City need to go and buy any other players?
We just signed a young kid from Vélez Sarsfield, Perón, Argentinian kid. I believe he's joining at the end of their league or whatever next month. What's happening? Left back's a problem for us. Cancelo doesn't seem to grasp it. We're playing Nathan Ake there. City never really go out in January and buy. Pep's a stubborn mule. He doesn't really do it. Us as fans, we love transfer windows. We want people to come in. It's just not what we do. So, I'd love him to go out and get a left back, maybe get another creative midfielder. I think we lack a bit of creativity in there when we play Gundogan and, Bernardo, because it's, they don't seem to be up to it at the minute. It just seems to be legs. There's only Kevin De Bruyne that's got that killer instinct in there at the minute. So, but I can't see it. I think we're going to ride it out now to the summer.
I get that. And in terms of this title race, though, how do you personally see it? Do you feel like Arsenal are now the front runners, or do you believe because of the 4 Prems in 5 years, even though you're 5 points behind, do you still feel like you're the favourites and you will catch and take over Arsenal?
If we were playing like we've been playing in the 4 of them 5 years, I would say we're just getting going. The run's coming. Watch. But what's alarming for me is we're not playing that way. We've obviously changed our style of play this season to suit Erling. Erling's doing what he's told to do. Stay in the box, score the goals. What we're not doing is providing the ammunition for him. It looks like we are on the outside, but believe me, we're not. Some games he won't touch the ball for 18 minutes. He'll have 2 chances, score them both. Now, I'm not saying get down the wing and spam crosses in the box, even though, in my opinion, I think that would work, because we never do that. But I'm saying is there's chances and opportunities when Jack Grealish on the left or Riyad Mahrez on the right bring the ball down. Erling Haaland makes the early run. All I'm saying is get your head up early and get that ball in the box, and we will score more goals and be more ruthless. At the minute, teams are finding it easier. They're pressing Rodri because he receives the ball from Ederson and turns. If you don't let him turn, the ball goes backwards to Nathan Ake or John Stones, and we start again. And Man United did it with Fred. The man-to-man Mark De Bruyne kept him out of the game. And this is what I'm saying. If teams are going to do that, we need a fully fit, fully informed Bernardo Silva or Gundogan running in between the lines. And at the minute, there's something missing. I do think Pep will find it, and I do think we ain't out of the title race and we're going to go for it. But in my opinion, Arsenal are the favourites for me. They've got the noses in front, and we've just got to keep hold of the coattails until the last 10 games and see what we can do.
Mate, look, I agree, and I think I've kind of defended Arsenal a lot this year. I've had a lot of stick for it. I've had a lot of praise for it. And the reason that I've done it is because I felt like the analysis I've seen from a lot of the mainstream media has been, City always kick on in the second half of the seasons. There's nothing to worry about here. But I find it disingenuous because essentially you're ignoring, you're quite literally ignoring the reality of what we can all see with our eyes. Like I can see and you can see that the football just hasn't been as good and consistent this year from City. And unless that improves and unless they prove this season they can do it, this 5-point gap, which could turn to 8 if they win that game in hand, is massive because this Arsenal team just looks relentless. Now, of course, I see people go, yeah, but if they get loads of major injuries, they'll be out of it. Yeah, cool. But if City get loads of major injuries, they're out of it as well. I don't see it as kind of like for me, it seems like it's weird analysis to say that. We of course, if they lose their goalie, their 2 main centre-backs, Partey, Jesus and Saka for the rest of the season, they won't win the league. It's obvious. But the football from Arsenal has been so good and so relentless. And they just haven't shown, for me, any signs of regression. They haven't showed anything where they're going to go backwards massively. So, yeah, I mean, I make them the front runners from this point. However, that isn't to completely discount Man City from the perspective of there's no chance you win it 110%, that there's nothing you can do to come back. If you do go on a crazy run and win 12, 13, 14 games on the bounce, and Arsenal have a few hairy, including beating Arsenal in both those games, it will be a very, very different situation. But it's, for me, it feels it's going to be a very, very good title race. And it's good to have somebody else in it and it not just be, Liverpool and City, which has been for a long time. Somebody else new, a different fan base, kind of getting excited. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how it goes. And in your head right now, you say Arsenal are the front runners. Do you believe Arsenal will win it? Like, do you feel like as much of the favourite, do you think they'll do it? Do you think they've got enough about them this year to? Because you know what it's like. You've been there many times with your club. That run in, that last couple of that last sort of 5 to 10 games is hard.
Oh, it's and when you've got Champions League games coming up and things like that, and it gets so intense, and you can't even lose a game, you can't even draw a game, you're just literally on it. I mean, I feel that I've got to back my team. I've got to back a team that's won 4 out of the last 5 Prems, who's gone toe-to-toe with one of the greatest Liverpool teams. So I'm hoping and praying that we get it right and Pep gets the formula right. At the minute, we've not got it right. Tomorrow night, we'll tell a lot of different things. We'll see what's going on there. But it's early days yet to say it. Arsenal are the favourites for me. They're doing well. 50-odd points now. It's phenomenal. And like you say, they've got that machine working and they're ploughing on and the game by game, they're getting the points, even not playing well, getting the points. We're not doing that. We're winning 2 or 3 games and we're dropping silly points, shooting ourselves in the foot. We need to get rid of them mistakes, get this mentality back. That's the alarming thing for me as a City fan. One thing you could never question our players was mentality. We always had that mentality to never give in. Man City last season were 2-0 down against Aston Villa and we never gave in. That mentality wins you titles. I'm not seeing that mentality this season. Something's missing. So we'll see how we do tomorrow. February the 15th, Emirates Stadium, Man City, Arsenal, toe-to-toe. If they beat us at the Emirates, I fear for us. If we beat them at the Emirates, then I think it's on.
Yeah, that game is going to be huge psychologically as well. As you know, it's such a big one. There's some super chats here. First one says, "I'm begging City to win the league." That's from a Chelsea fan.
We're trying, Todd.
This is an interesting question. It says, "It's his birthday. What's your guy's favorite Jose Mourinho moment?"
Running down the touchline at Old Trafford in his Matalan coat.
I fucking knew you were going to say that. That was a painful night. Just if VAR existed, it's crazy actually. If VAR existed, who knows what trajectory his career
it would have been mad. There'd have been cups that would never have been won, and Chesterfield have been in the FA Cup final, was it, when he hit the bar and over the line? And it's mad, man. Someone will do that one day. Some guy in his bedroom will go back and check them results and see what would have happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people always throw up the famous one where Spurs' ball crossed the line, but United weren't going to win the Prem that season anyway. Chelsea were clear. But yeah, I mean, there's been loads of moments like that, and even like goal line technology and whatever else. But for me, favorite Jose moment. Listen, if I'm a non-Man United one, him and Jose Mourinho spat on the sideline. I thought that was amazing. The tie flicking and the squaring up. As a Man United fan, it's winning I think winning the Europa League, because that was actually the last time I had optimism. Up until now, it's the last time I had genuine optimism and felt we had a winner at the club, because we didn't do that well in the league that year, but we won the League Cup, we won that trophy. There was a feel-good factor, and there was a feeling that we could go on to the next level the following season. And the first 3 or 4 months of the season, we were toe-to-toe with you. And then we hit that Christmas and the January period, and we fell off. But that little period there was really good. I enjoyed Jose at that point. This here says 5 of 6 top 6 teams have dropped form from last year. That's why, basically saying that's why Arsenal are good.
No, Arsenal are doing what they're doing. They're doing well. There has been a drop off, and that can only be to the benefit of Arsenal. You don't really see Liverpool down there, Chelsea down there, City stumbling, but it is what it is. Listen, people could probably use that to try and discredit what Arsenal are doing, but I don't. I think what they've done there is top notch, and I think, look, you got to take it off to them.
No, I agree completely. I think that that would only make sense if Arsenal had the same amount of points maybe as last year, but were higher because everyone else had dropped off. The fact they've got 50 points from 19 games, I think only 2 other teams ever have had more points after 19 games. So there we go. This says here, Rashford just started having one good season. All of a sudden, United fans are calling him the best winger in the world. Saka been carrying Arsenal for 4 years. Abs, what I would say is Rashford had a bad season last year. The previous 2 years to that, he was pretty good for us. And as I've said, some United fans will say he's the best in the world, but I also saw United fans tweet last night that the Carabao Cup is a bigger and harder trophy to win than the Champions League. People tweet stuff for banter. They don't really mean it.
Yeah.
On form, Rashford is arguably the best in the world right now. I don't think any level-headed United fan just thinks out and out he's the best winger in the world, because I don't think anyone thinks he's better than Neymar. I just don't think anyone does. But on form, he's right up there, my friend. And when you've got a player on form, I just think fans are allowed to embellish in that. Fans are allowed to enjoy that. Fans are allowed to have fun with it. I would say. This here says world class means starts for all the top teams. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you declare world class as you start for anyone? Is Steve frozen? Is he back? I don't know. You there, Steve? He may be on his way back. I don't know yet. Let's see what. There you go. Back. I can hear you again now. There we go.
Yeah. I don't know what's he's moving mad tonight. No, I think listen, I think he's having a good season. Like I said before, he's having a good season. So we'll see how it goes to the end of the season.
There's a comment here from one of our members, Lynn, who says, Steve, I've seen some reports claiming today that a lot of the players are not happy playing for Pep Guardiola. What's all that about?
I don't know. I mean, like you said at the beginning of the show, it's very rare anything comes out of Man City that's negative. There's been 1 or 2 things coming out. But look, if you're Cancelo, Walker, Diaz, Bernardo, and you've been dropped for the last 2 games, you're not going to be happy. But the reason is, why have you been dropped? So we need to get to the bottom of that. Look, Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the world for me. So if anyone can get it right, if anyone can wean out these players that don't want to play, it's Pep. So I trust my manager. I don't trust the press. Don't listen to all the negative stuff. I just go week in, week out, back the team. And I can see in my own mind when I watch the team who's with us and who's not. So I'll be looking at them players in a different light next few games to see if the mentality is still there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, there's a lot of talk that some players at Liverpool are not behind Klopp anymore. Could you imagine a world where like player power takes over that dressing room? Do you think City as a club would let that happen, like other teams have? You don't think they would?
I do think that the club hasn't got an awful lot of leaders in the dressing room as it did have once before. You talk about Vincent Kompany and David Silva and Yaya Toure and people like that who knew what it was about. The club, Pablo Zabaleta had a bit of respect, could get the crowd going and stuff. I think Pep touched on it a few weeks ago. Young Rico Lewis was getting kicked in the air off Tottenham and not one of our boys went and helped him. Now, that's not Man City, you know what I mean? If Man City was always a great team, but we could always mix it if we had to mix it. Fernandinho would always be the first one straight in. I think this season there's a few of them a little bit soft, and I just hope, I don't see it going that way. I don't think Pep would ever let it go that way. But at the minute, if you're asking my opinion, we're not that team that we once was.
Yeah, listen, I think, do you know what it comes down to for me? There has been a change in style. I just think that trying to win 3 leagues on the bounce is so hard. If you actually look through the history of English football, I swear it's only been done about 6 or 7 times in 130, 140 odd years. And in those early years, there weren't as many teams, so it was a little bit easier to do. But it's hard to maintain that fight year in, year out. And I always remember listening to Pep speak about Fergie, and he always said the trophies are amazing, the records are amazing. But he said, I don't understand how he kept a team motivated and that competitive for 25 years in the same place. And that's why if you do the 3P, that's why I don't want you to win it. I'll be blunt, because doing a 3P isn't just winning 3 on the bounce. It's the mental fortitude to do it. For me, winning 3 on the bounce is a better achievement than going invincible in 1 year. It's a better achievement than winning one season with 100 points, 105 points, 100. I don't even know what the maximum amount of points is you can get. I've never done the maths. But winning 3 on the bounce is harder because it's year after year after year of just that mental fatigue to get through it. And your manager keeping those players motivated and vice versa for 3 seasons running. Again, it's only been done twice by one team in over 30 years. So it's a gargantuan achievement. And I think that that's why I'm desperate for Arsenal to win the league. I'm not going to lie, because I want that to be a record that, same as you probably in your heart of hearts, don't want nobody else to go Centurions, because it's something City have got that is for you. So this super chat here from the Mancunian Way says, I think we lack a leader and players come to the end of their journey, but we will sort this come the summer, is what's said there.
I agree. No, I agree. Big up the Mancunian Way as well. He's a good guy, big City fan. No, we do. Ruben Diaz is back now. I'm expecting some sort of kick up the arse from Ruben to because he's a leader. Definitely one of the big ones we've got. I'm expecting him to come in and sort it out. And listen, it's down to the players. They can't be feeling sorry for themselves at the Etihad. They've got the best facilities, best manager in the world, been winning trophies. I'm not buying it. Put a bit of fight into it. Let's kick on and have a go. If we get beat by the better team at the end of the season, then nobody will give Arsenal the props more than me. I stood outside the Emirates last season on AFTV. Go and look at the video. They were all baying for blood. And I told them to stick with Arteta. Trust the process, what he's doing. Ignore all the crap online and the media and all that. Listen, he's got a plan. He knows what he's doing. And they keep sending me the clips. But I was right. I believed in it. I've seen him at the club. I've seen Arteta doing things at City. I listened to the players behind the scenes talking about him. I knew he had something, but I just thought he wasn't going to get the time. And look at the time now. You know what I mean? 12 months ago, Tottenham were the team that were all talking about. Conte was going to do this. Conte was going to do that. Look at Tottenham now. To Arsenal. Shit show.
100%. Lennon Sweet says the problem is Pep changes the back line every game now, where as before Stones and Diaz start or Laporte, not as you all think. No consistency. Is
He
that the
doesn't.
manager, is that the manager tinkering, or is that
He's
players
always doing it. We
performing?
had 4 centre-backs at the back last game. Nathan Ake at left back, yeah. Akanji, I think it was Laporte, and Stones at right back. It was weird. But and it's mad, it's just not the same, as what it is. People need to realise, and then you look at the opposite end of the scale. If you play Cancelo at left back, who's totally different to Nathan Ake, and you play Walker at right back, who's totally different than John Stones, A, you've got a bit of pace. B, they get up and down the line. C, they're a bit more mobile. It's how Pep wants to do it. Sometimes he wants to go down this slow build-up route, and I don't think it works. But look, I'm not going to insult him. He's the best manager in the world, and he wins trophies for a reason. I just hope that he's got to be entitled to change system and try and get it right. It can't just change system every year, add players, and it always work. Football don't work like that. And I think at the minute, it's not worked as well as he wanted. It's not fluid enough. The mentality's gone from certain players. I just think Man City are at that period in time where, look at Liverpool last season, yeah? Carabao Cup final, won it. FA Cup, won it. Lost the league by a point, lost the Champions League final. They could have won the quad, and look at them this season. But they're entitled to a drop-off, apparently, because it is what it is. But Man City, we're not entitled to a drop-off with a system change.
No, listen, I hear you. I hear you. D Rush says it's a big fallacy to suggest Arsenal is this good because Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City dropped off because United, Spurs, and Newcastle and Brighton are all way better. Barring Spurs, but that's just it. United are a different team to last year. Newcastle have been brilliant, and Brighton have been good. And you've got Fulham and Brentford this year that are better. It's again, it's disrespectful to say Arsenal were only where they are because a couple of teams are not as good. If City were as good as they were last year, Arsenal would still have 50 points after 19 games because you ain't even played them yet. Like it would have made no difference to how good Arsenal are. Nemin says, do you get a gold Premier League title for winning 3 on the bounce? Invincibles. Yeah, but your gold Premier League title you made yourself.
Exactly.
The Premier League didn't give that to you. You made it. We could make a platinum one, couldn't we ourselves? That's not. Do you know what I mean? If I have a good week at work and make myself a certificate, that's I don't know, bro. I'm sorry to say that, but you made that yourself. The Premier League didn't make it for you. Young kids probably don't know that, but and trust me, what would you rather? 1 Premier League invincible or 3 Premier Leagues on the bounce? I know what you're taking, bruv. You're taking 3 on the bounce because it's 3 of them. Come on now. It's an interesting question. What's a player you guys despise for no reason?
Despise is a strong word, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. For no reason as well. Like I can't despise someone for no reason. But player you don't like.
I don't know, but back in the day, Gary Neville used to rub me up a bit different because of his hatred of Man City. But when you grow up, you respect it a bit because you think, you know what? If I played for Man City, I'd be doing exactly the same as Gary Neville at Old Trafford. I'd be winding them up to death. So I don't despise him. I just think he was. He used to rub us up the wrong way because we used to often lose there. And then Roy Keane, obviously the tackle he did at Haaland that was there that day. I thought I respected Roy as a player and his aggression and that. And then now we see him as a pundit, and I actually like him. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I think we all have these love-hate relationships with players over the years, but I think you grow up in the end and realise, people are different off the pitch.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think growing up, like a player I couldn't stand was Jamie Carragher, and it was almost there was something about I just found him so arrogant for a player that wasn't very good. And he was a good player. He played for Liverpool in the Premier League, Champions League. He was good, but I used to think he thought he was better than he was. And there was a tackle he did on Nani once and put like 17 stitches in his leg. And I was at that game and I didn't calm down for about 3 days. I despised the guy for it and whatever else. But equally, as a pundit now, I think he's great. And obviously, I know he had that, the incident where he we had to spit the guy, and he got the guy's daughter, and it was horrendous. And I
Yeah.
was surprised Sky didn't sack him for it. But I'm, you know, he's not like he's been out doing that thing since. He had a mad moment. He's come back from it, and I think as a pundit, I like the guy. Like, he comes across great. He talks a lot. He actually, this season, especially, he's been talking a lot more sense than Neville as well this year. Like, he's got a lot more right. He seems to be a bit more level-headed and doesn't talk with his heart as much. He's a little bit more level. Although I would have liked to have seen him gone a little bit more in on Gerrard, because he was pushing Scholes to go in on Ollie. But, you know, because that's the only thing I'd like to have seen. But there we go. I've got a question for you, though, actually. Is Jack Grealish a flop in your opinion?
No. The thing is with people these days, there's quite a few different football fans out there in the world, yeah? The ones that actually know what they're talking about and watch football, and the ones that ain't got a fucking clue and look at the end of the game and see who scored and assisted. Now, Jack Grealish last season probably was overhyped, didn't have the greatest of season, but he won the Premier League. Whether you like him or not, he won the Premier League. Didn't score many goals, didn't do many assists. But this Jack Grealish this season, he's playing every week, and he's in a Pep team. Best manager in the world's picking him. He's had to change his game. He's doing exactly what Pep wants him. You know, he's carrying the ball. You look at the game against United, the 6-3 game. You know, Jack played really well in that game. Any Manchester City fan that goes week in, week out will tell you that Jack Grealish this season has probably, if not been our best player, or one of the best players. Could he add goals and assists to his game? Yeah. But this was all a myth, because at Aston Villa, I think his best scoring season was 6 or 7 or 10 or something, and 6 assists. It wasn't flattering. But Jack's doing all right. Jack Grealish is doing okay. The 100 million price tag's not his fault. We can forget that now anyway, because you have to pay 100 million for Caicedo, and Caicedo ain't better than Jack Grealish. But nah, Jack's doing all right, mate. Listen, I'm a big defender of him. I've defended him a lot. I think he's doing okay. Man City fans will tell you that. And lay off him, man. Lay off him.
I'm having a bit of a joke at the minute with him, because I say that City would win with or without him. So I call him Luke Chadwick.
Disrespect, man. The disrespect is bad.
And it is. It's meant to be. It's a bit of fun. He's better looking than Luke Chadwick, though. I'll give him that. He's a lot better looking than Lukey was. But yeah, I just want a bit more from him. A lot of things you've said I see, but I just sort of feel that if he left tomorrow and you brought in a decent replacement, I don't think your team would be as impact. I don't think you would miss him as much as you would miss KDB leaving in terms of that. And I kind of feel with Jack Grealish, I rated the guy so highly at Villa. I thought he was going to have a similar level of impact on the team and whatever else. But I'll listen to what you've said, and I'll look at those elements of his game, and I'll look at it.
With this game, there's times this season where we've really needed him, and when we've been under the caution, he's come off the bench, he's kept the ball up the pitch for us. He's been really good. He's very unlucky, Jack, when he plays. You see him, he gets in some great positions. I just think sometimes his decision making at the last minute, I think he's too safe. I think he needs to gamble. I think he needs to have a shot when he, don't be frightened of having a shot. Stop being safe. But then I've been told that Pep's not like that. He wants them to be playing the ball. Don't lose the ball. Keep the ball. Keep it moving all the time. Doesn't want them shooting from 30, 40 yards. You never see Man City players doing that. So I just look at it and think, look, you wouldn't be getting in Pep Guardiola's team week in, week out if you wasn't doing what Pep Guardiola is telling you to do. So if Pep's happy with him, I'm happy with him.
That's fair logic. Is what I say about Anthony at United. He's getting picked, so it must be doing something right. So I get that completely. Steve, listen, score prediction for tomorrow night from you, please, mate.
I'm going for the tough game. I think Man City will win it. We'll nick it 2-1. 2-1 City.
2-1 City. There we go. My prediction's out tomorrow, people, so I'm not going to ruin that bit of content by telling you now. So make sure you tune into that. Steve, absolute pleasure to have you on Straight Facts, and we'll be seeing you again similar time next week, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll be having Steve back on here on a weekly basis, adding him to the Straight Facts catalogue with Lee Gunner and, of course, Jessica Black as well. Viewers, before you leave, hit like and share buttons. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.